Hailing frequencies open and welcome aboard Treks and Tangents. I'm your co-host Brian.
And I'm your co-host Jaci. I'm the Star Trek newbie who checks off on tangents.
And I'm your Star Trek expert who's here to get the tangents back on track. Each episode we watch and talk about a different Star Trek episode. And this week we watched
Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 4, The Naked Time.
Episode 4 for the series, Episode 5 for our podcast. We made it.
Stupid name.
Yes, so stupid we made it to 5 episodes. Absolutely, from the Peanut Gallery. But here we are to date this episode. To pull back a curtain a little bit, this is the first episode that we are recording since the podcast went live.
Boom, boom, boom.
We have to backdate some of these. We have to pre-record to make sure that we have episodes ready to publish every week on Tuesdays. So we back record some episodes. In this case, we back recorded 4 just to be safe. But here we are, episode 5. Lots of fun watching the podcast go live. Lots of fun watching people comment and like the podcast across all of the different platforms that we publish on: Patreon, YouTube, and Spotify, everywhere else that you can get podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I'm having fun. How about you, Jaci?
I'm having a blast learning about the Star Trek thing, even though I still have no idea what I'm watching.
Yeah, so we just wanted
Don't forget YouTube. Did you mention YouTube?
I did mention YouTube.
Oh, see,
yes.
I wasn't listening.
Yes, Alphabet's YouTube. And so we just wanted to take a quick moment and deviate from our normal script and thank everyone who's listened in, everyone who's taken a moment to check out our podcast. Certainly thank you to everyone who has hit whatever like or subscribe feature is on the platform that you consume this podcast on. And we certainly also want to thank those that have sponsored and supported this podcast directly at our Patreon at patreon.com/treksandtangents. It's not free to host the podcast. It's not expensive. It's a hobby, but certainly that does help offset these costs that we have to incur to put this show together. So thank you all so very much.
And I promise I'll get better.
I think we're doing just fine. We also, to date this episode, this is the first episode that we have come back and are recording since our little vacation to Pumpkin Festival in Half Moon Bay. So that was a lot of fun. There were some,
and I was a Trekkie.
And Jaci was a Trekkie. I don't know if at this time, well, certainly by the time this episode comes out, I don't know as of recording, but by the time this episode comes out, we'll have posted some of those pictures on our social media at Instagram, Blue Sky, X, where you can follow us for updates to the show and just other random things. I know we've posted personally on our social media about our trip to Pumpkin Festival. It was a lot of fun to see our friends and to see those that we hang out with every year. Friends from my high school to vendors at the Pumpkin Festival. We know you're listening. Thank you so much for listening and supporting us.
We definitely appreciate it. And it's going to be a blast and can't wait till next year.
Absolutely. But with all of that business out of the way, let's return to our regularly scheduled program and revisit the Turbolift tease from last week.
Failed.
That is where we gave Jaci the title of this week's episode, and Jaci, without any other information, tried to guess the plot of this week's episode. And I have that here in front of me. So Jaci's Turbolift tease for The Naked Time. And I quote, "I'm going to say that the naked time is literally time, like the passing of it. It is A to Z to, the biological clock. Naked time. Deep, Jaci, deep. From alpha to omega, from A to Z. I, of course, left out the fun part where you wanted to double check to make sure it was time, T-I-M, and not time, T-H-Y-M.
Yes, because it could have been a nice little seasoning to something.
Yes.
Like a soup.
Yes, like our fun episode from Stargate SG-1 where they had food involved with the
With the
courtship,
knocks.
the courtship pizza. That one episode.
Oh yeah, that one.
So no, I think you are correct. I think you missed the mark on this one. So
Oh well, there was some people without clothes on.
what?
One person didn't have clothes on, so it was kind of naked time. Ha ha.
You're talking about? Oh, I was trying to remember the episode. Are you talking about Sulu in the hallway?
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause I was thinking all the way to the
He was
beginning.
all sweaty and
I was,
muscly.
I was thinking back to the beginning of the episode when they're on the planet and they're investigating the science outpost on the frozen planet, and they mentioned the person in the shower. But I was thinking, no, they had their clothes on. That was the whole unique part of it. But anyway, Jackie, what did you think of this episode? What are your initial impressions?
I'm so glad it was not the pilot because I would not have watched it.
Because you didn't like this episode.
I hated it.
Why did you hate this episode? Because
I
got to
had no
tell you,
idea what was going on.
this is one of the more iconic episodes. I would say that this is probably in the original series. This is probably going to be one of the episodes where the show really starts to hit its stride.
Lord save me.
It had everything you liked. It had captain's logs.
Yes.
It had naked guys, half naked guys.
No troubles.
There's no tribbles. That's not a thing that's going to appear in every episode.
Sword fighting.
Yes. And it had mystery. It had suspense. I think it didn't jump back and forth between scenes too much. Everything was contained. This was definitely a bottle episode where everything was contained to the ship.
I mean, I could see that, but I mean, it's probably because I have no idea what I'm watching. But when I break it down, I mean, the actors did a really good job at, oh, my hand is sweaty, or, oh, my arm is itchy. So, I mean, we go in there.
They had to do that,
and then
I think.
The nurse was like, oh, see, that's also what I didn't understand. If the nurse is supposed to be affected by this, why was she, like, promiscuous, sexy, when everyone else was just, like, random? Like one person is singing, one person is trying to fight with a sword, but she's just wandering around thinking she's, like, a hot biscuit. I don't understand. I think that's what I didn't get.
Because they all were drunk.
I don't understand that they were drunk.
They were drunk. The pathogen made them drunk. The quote unquote complex water or heavy water that ended up causing the infection made them all intoxicated.
Oh. Well, I totally missed that part.
The actions of from the beginning of the person in the shower with their clothes on, drunk, the engineer on the planet's surface who was at their station, just completely oblivious to everything, drunk. You had Riley singing in the engineering room, drunk. Sulu.
But that lady who was killed. Hello.
Yes, because they were drunk and not in complete control of their senses. They flipped off all of the life support systems on the planet and then were so drunk they couldn't take care of themselves and died from exposure. Kind of like people who in like Montana who decide to walk home from the bar in the snowstorm and die from exposure.
So I was confused from the very freaking beginning. Because I thought that they were trying to figure out why everything was frozen. But it was a red blood-like substance that affected Riley.
I will give you that. That was that's inconsistent.
Not alcohol.
No. It's not that they were in fact drunk on alcohol. It was the fact that the pathogen inhibited them and made them experience a state of mind that was like being drunk.
I'm dumbfounded.
We got to do a video podcast at some point because the look on Jackie's face right now as I explain this. Yes, they were drunk. Well, maybe if we I'll give my initial impression real quick. Obviously, I liked this episode a lot. This is one of the better starting points for Star Trek. This is where the show really starts to hit its stride. This is a great plot point. The ending to this gives so much leaping off points for other ideas and other storylines for time travel with the show. This is where we get Star Trek, the movie, The Journey Home. And besides the fact that this episode is one of, or I should say, the only original series episode where we get a direct mirror episode or redo episode for the Next Generation. It wasn't that great of a Next Generation episode, but again, this episode that we're talking about today was the inspiration to directly create the Next Generation episode, The Naked Now.
So does that Captain Log say, P.S., we're all drunk?
They definitely, in the Next Generation episode, The Naked Now, refer back to this incident, The Naked Time, in the original series, as showing that this is the same phenomena that they're experiencing. They're also trying to observe the collapse of, I believe in the Next Generation, it's a star, not a planet, but they change a couple things. Anyway, I like the episode. Maybe if we go through the episode a little more, we can maybe explain some of this better so that Jaci can understand how.
Figure this out.
Yeah. Let's untangle this. Jaci, why don't you walk us through the episode?
Well, we open up with a beautiful starscape of the Enterprise going around a planet.
They do a good job with these graphics here.
And we learned that we're actually orbiting, the name of these planets suck. We're orbiting a planet called PSI 2000.
Yes.
And it's a frozen wasteland, but we have to save whomever is alive still. So that's our mission.
So they're there to retrieve the scientists that have been on this planet studying what is now the impending and immediate self-implosion or destruction of the planet. The scientists have been studying it from the surface, and the Enterprise is there to take them off the planet before the planet collapses, but also the Enterprise is there to observe the collapse of the planet from space.
Which that'd be probably cool. But then when Spock and Riley arrive...
Not Riley.
My apologies. Crew member Tomlin.
I don't remember the guy's last name. His first name's Joe.
Okay, Joe. When Joe and Spock arrive, it pretty much, the planet looks like the inside of your freezer when you left it open just a tiny bit.
It's a good way to describe it. They went around with, like, what would happen if you just went around coating the walls with a sticky fire extinguisher?
Yes, super frozen, and they're walking in. And what's weird is they walk over the dead woman and have arrived inside the building, and their front desk maitre d' that I wrote down is passed out, but then he's dead actually, and he's actually holding on to all the stuff on his desk like it's important.
Yes.
But he's dead.
Yeah.
And then Joe goes on looking for the rest of the crew, because that's one. So there should be like 3 others. And then that's when Spock figures out, oh, there's a lady outside. And she does not have a fancy snowsuit on. It's just a cute little blue dress. And she's been strangled. So who's the murderer on the planet?
Is it even really a murder if it's not a woman?
They said it was a lady.
They did say it was a lady.
Strangled.
But what did it look like?
I have no idea.
It's a mannequin.
Okay, I'm tired of all these crazy things going on in this show.
We're gonna pause the episode right here. I'm gonna show Jaci a picture of the quote dead woman, and then we're gonna come right back for her live reaction. What do you think of that woman, Jaci?
She's very pretty, and she's actually wearing a green dress, and yeah, she's a mannequin.
Yeah, she's definitely a mannequin.
What the heck? And also their quote unquote guns are like first generation Nerf guns, and I don't know how they're gonna kill anybody that way.
Well, they're not guns; they're scientific scanners. I don't remember hearing why they beam down because we should point out Spock and Joe beam down wearing a version of like a hazmat suit. Not a very good one.
Cling to their neck. It's like completely open.
Yeah, it's Yeah.
And saran wrap over the opening.
Yeah. It's not a very good one for reasons we'll get to in just a moment. I don't know why Spock and Joe beam down wearing the hazmat suits. I don't remember hearing about it. Maybe it's just the fact that they could not communicate or could not reach out to the scientific party at the station. But in any case, yeah, they're not guns. They're just scanning equipment.
So while Spock is taking care of the mannequin dead woman, Joe is trying to figure out trying to turn on his scanner. He has like a tiny scanner, and it won't work. So he takes off his glove and he puts it on top of the dead man, like on his head, like a hat. And I did laugh at that, but I'm like, why are you doing that? So he turns on his little scanner, but yet with his gloveless hand, he touches. You know how when you bend down, you're trying to look underneath the table?
Yeah, you're bracing yourself against something.
Yes. His gloveless hand is on the outside, of the leg of the table, while he's scanning underneath the table. And then anti-gravity, this red blood-like substance shoots up into his hand. And then he's like shaking it like, oh, what's going on here? And then he ignores it the whole time. Or he doesn't like bring attention to it as they continue searching. And then they like, no one here is alive, so we should just go home.
Yeah, they report back to Kirk that everyone's dead. They don't know why. It's nothing as if they've ever seen before, so that we can get a good teaser to go through to lead into the opening credits.
Which was really good.
Yes, that's how television shows work.
But did you notice that they added this time, every time there was a name, it went, shoosh.
Yes.
Shoosh.
Yes, they have further expanded on Jackie's favorite part of the show, the opening credits.
Well, because the music is fantastic.
Yes.
The French horn is used greatly.
Yeah.
And then we got my man Kirk and his captain's log as we're coming back from the opening credits. And he's like, Captain's log 1704.2. And he explains basically everything that we just did, that everyone's dead and he doesn't know why, but we'll figure it out.
I do like that you have the same note as I do, that Kirk jumps in with his captain's log and does nothing more than recap everything we just saw in the cold opening.
And all they're going to do, though, is they're just going to watch the planet implode. He's really excited about that.
Yep. So for practicality purposes, those dead scientists are going to stay on the planet as it breaks up. They never mention it, but think about it.
So Spock and Joe are in a transport room now, and Spock and Joe have returned, and they're ordered to the medical room to make sure all is well, that they didn't get some weird thing from those dead. I keep calling them astronauts.
Well, they also use the transporter device as, once they're back on the Enterprise, as a decontamination environment. I read a fact in preparation for this episode that this is the only time that we see the transporter device used decontamination. I didn't include it in the fun facts. I don't know how true that is. There are instances that I can think of where the transporter is used as a screening device where it scans the incoming people for a ton of things besides viruses and other environmental hazards. It can scan for weapons and so forth. So I don't really know that that's accurate to say that this is the first time or the only time this is used as a decontamination device. It certainly, I think, is the only time that we see people standing on the transporter pads going through a decontamination process while they're fully materialized.
Interesting.
That is Jackie's translation for all that just went over my head.
Yes. It had lots of like do and lights.
Yes, and lights.
But we're in the sick bay now, and which is also like the doctor office, and McCoy is checking their vitals. Joe has a clean bill of health, but he's rubbing you can see that he is agitated. Like it went from his hand being twitchy, sweaty. So now he's really rubbing his arm. The actors do a great job showing how they do not feel well.
Yes, how they transition from normal to intoxicated tripping balls.
It doesn't look like it, but sure. And then we have like little banter between Spock and McCoy that Spock has green blood and he has no blood pressure, but everything else is super high. But he's normal for him, so yay.
Yeah, I think it's a little weird that the sick bay's scanning device isn't calibrated to other species, just for Star Trek lore. This is not the first. Spock is certainly not the first Vulcan that humans have encountered. There is a very rich history of humankind interacting with Vulcans. So it's, to me, just a little odd that the Enterprise can't accurately detect his correct vital signs and compare his vital signs to humans. But that's just me.
Oh, I did not know that there was Vulcans before Spock. So I would be like, oh, okay, they'll figure it out sooner or later. But then Kirk like pops in and he's like, how is everybody? And they go, clean bill of health. Yay. So let's get moving.
Well, we also get the first instance that something is wrong with Joe, where at least on the surface level, he's got a little bit of a level of PTSD from his experience on the planet and seeing those people dead, but it acts as foreshadowing for where his character goes.
What do you mean? See, I missed that. What do you mean he has PTSD?
Well,
all I see is him rubbing his arm.
Well, no, because he has that conversation with Kirk where he has a clean bill of health, but the conversation or the dialogue is that he's a little freaked out about they don't know what killed the scientists down on the planet, and Kirk has to kind of give him this little reassurance of everything's okay. Why don't you just take a little bit of time off? Why don't you go rest up? Again, it's being portrayed as PTSD, just a traumatic experience that he went through, but it acts as foreshadowing for when he flips his lid in the recreation room later.
Because he really thinks that they froze to death. And
they literally did freeze to death.
Right. So he's concerned about that.
Yes.
And while they're having that conversation, Spock is happy-go-lucky that he's different. He's like, haha.
I will point out to the audience that Spock is a Vulcan and doesn't express his emotions like that. So that's a very interesting way to describe a Vulcan, is happy-go-lucky.
Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Scotty the engineer all meet together in the conference room. They also have Yeoman Janice there, and they're reviewing the tapes from the planet they were just at. The doctor says they all look drunk. It's like a space madness, he calls it.
So there's the drunk part.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot. But it's a space madness, and then Kirk is worried, can it get up here? Like, how can it be transferred? And then while they're discussing it, Uhura calls and's like, come back to the bridge. Come back to the bridge because it's starting to disintegrate.
The planet is starting to break up.
Yeah, and they all need to see it because that's what they're doing. And then while they're going to the bridge, we're popping into the rec room, and it's so weird, but Joe gets his lunch from like a window in the wall. Instead of like putting your trash out in the little trolleys, he gets his food out.
This would be a replicator.
Oh, like what you mentioned before.
Yes, this is the first. Yeah, this is the first time that we see a replicator. They don't have special effects or anything. So the idea is that the ship generates using matter and energy to create the meal, the food, and then it's all done behind this door that Joe lifts up to get his food. In later shows, you actually see a special effect where it looks like the transporter special effect, but you actually get to see the item or food materialize.
I'm excited about that future part.
Yes.
So he sits down with Sulu and another crew member, but
the
he's
other crew member
out.
is Riley.
See, I knew that you'd be able to tell me where Riley comes into this, but Joe is still freaking out over this entire situation, and his arm is still itchy / sweaty. But while they're there, they're still talking about swords and whatnot. But then while they're doing that, Uhura does call them to get to their stations.
Right. Sulu and Riley are discussing fencing, which becomes relevant later in the story. Sulu is a fencer. I guess fencer is who practices the art of fencing, but was trying to convince Riley to take up the sport. And that's when they're discussing that as they're sitting down to join Joe. And yes, Joe's problem is now in full effect. His full paranoia. He goes on a ranting monologue about how dangerous space is, how humans aren't supposed to be in space, that they shouldn't be there, and the fate of the scientists on the planet is the consequence of them venturing into space.
And he even grabs a knife and tries to, he does succeed in stabbing himself.
He grabs a knife and first threatens Sulu and Riley, and then tries to turn the knife on himself. He gets stabbed as a consequence of Sulu and Riley wrestling with him to try to get the knife away. But as an accident, Joe does get stabbed, which, for those playing along at home, is where Sulu and Riley become infected when they touch Joe.
That makes so much more sense, because this whole time I've been trying to figure out how Riley gets infected.
There's literally, I think, a special sound effect every time one of the crew members gets touched by an infected person and they become infected.
I need to go back and listen.
Yes, it's a little hissing.
Oh, that's what it is. I thought it was just part of the ship or like a door opening. I now get it.
Now it starts to come together for the Star Trek newbie.
It took a while because this episode is not really my favorite, so I kind of wandered off myself. And so while Joe is bleeding, but they're all freaking out over his hand, just like Joe.
Joe gets stabbed. We see the really bad special effects of some off-red paint on everyone's hands in the front of Joe's uniform. Riley jumps up and uses the comm system on the wall to summon security, medical help, but then immediately, because he's now infected, he starts rubbing his hand where he came in contact with Joe, and so he's infected, and the infection is instantaneous in its presenting of symptoms.
And while he's just wiping away everything, the doctor and Christine, who is a nurse that just pops in, they try to stop the bleeding, but it just shows that everything is fine. He is dying because they couldn't stop whatever is happening to him.
Well, we get some back and forth here between the sickbay and the bridge, where on the bridge, the Enterprise continues to stay in an orbit around the planet to observe it breaking up. There's some moments where Sulu and Riley are having to make course corrections, but they're both infected. So, like being drunk, their response times aren't exactly on par like they need to be. And we jump back from the bridge to sickbay to watch the operation. Joe has his knife wound fixed during the operation, but his vitals continue to fall. And on the operating table, Joe passes away without any logical or medical reason, as observed by Dr. McCoy.
Thank you for helping me out there, because I was so confused, jumping back and forth. And this whole time, I thought Joe was Riley and Riley was Joe.
Yeah, two different people. They're not even brothers.
So yes, I was a bit confused and lost there.
Yeah. I'll also point out that Nurse Christine is played by Majel Barrett, who becomes eventually Gene Roddenberry's wife. She plays Roxana Troy in The Next Generation. She is the voice of the computer through most of that.
Oh, so she gets to be in all the things.
Yeah, she's
special.
She is Mrs. Star Trek.
I mean, she's gorgeous.
Yes. Gorgeous.
I really like her eyes.
Gorgeous in that wig that she's wearing.
It is kind of ugly.
Yes. So Joe's dead.
And then on the bridge, they found out that the planet that they're orbiting is breaking up and shrinking. Meanwhile, Dr. McCoy calls for Captain Kirk to come to the sick bay, and during that, Riley and Sulu are talking about how they are feeling sweaty also in their hands and whatnot. And Sulu's like, why don't you just, come with me to the gym? Let's get rid of this extra. Let's work it off. Come with me. And Riley's like, nah, that's okay. And Sulu scurries off.
Yes, because at this point, Sulu is more under the effects of this intoxication that's affecting the crew members than Riley is at this point. Possibly because he had more physical contact with Joe in their fight in the rec room.
Then we pop back to the sick bay, and Doctor and Kirk cannot figure out why Joe died. I mean, he's perfectly healthy. Why did he just die? And so now Dr. McCoy is sweating and heavy, and Kirk is like, do you know what brought this on? Maybe something from the planet. We need to look into it. And then we pop back. We do a lot of popping back at this point. Back at the bridge, Spock notices that Sulu is gone and is asking where to go because we're off course. And so he has to jump in and fix everything. Well, he asks the crewman.
He asks O'Reilly where Sulu is.
Yes, he does ask O'Reilly where Sulu is. And Riley's like, I have no idea. But he can't answer it because he has also I don't think he wants to get Sulu in trouble either. So he's like, I don't know.
Well, he's also more under the effects of the intoxicant, so he's acting more and more unstable and drunk.
Oh, but I do love it when he starts to sing. But anyways, Spock says, you need to go to sickbay because we need to figure out what's up with you. So as Riley is sauntering down the sickbay, and he doesn't even push doors open. He just blows them open. And then
I thought that was really funny.
Me too. It was it could even been like a little add-on, like in Pretty Woman when Richard Gere slaps the jewelry. And that was unexpected. Like he just was like, whew, and the door opened. But anyway, sorry. Back to our outer space. He notices our nurse Christine is just, happily sitting there taking care of everything, writing her notes, and he's just talking to her, and then he touches her, and instead of her feeling, it's odd, and I do hear the sizzle that you mentioned earlier.
This is the most prominent that it's ever been in the episode,
and it's even when she touches herself, you can hear it because it's just kind of getting turned on.
Well, we definitely see that later in the episode.
I mean, she's definitely enjoying her taps from Riley.
That, taken out of context, could be bad. Taps from Riley, but okay.
His touch. But then he's like, well, no one's here. I'm just going to head out. See you later. And then he's like, he disappears. But then all of a sudden, we see a very sweaty, shirtless Sulu jump out of nowhere with with a fencing sword, which is actually called a saber.
No, it's called a rapier.
Well, I looked it up and it was a saber.
It's a rapier.
Oh.
But side note, it was originally going to be a samurai sword or katana, and that idea was nixed. They didn't want to lean into any type of cultural ethnic stereotype of having the Asian crew member Sulu using a sword from an Asian culture. I think it was I read it was Sulu who picked and made that decision to not go with a katana.
I mean, well, that makes sense. It adds a little fire to the show. I mean, you don't ever see fencing in any shows even now.
You definitely will see more fencing in the Next Generation.
Ooh, I'm excited.
But this is also, yes, shirtless, fencing Sulu, cornering and chasing crew members down the corridor. This is the iconic scene from this episode.
But I mean, he has great form. I just want to add that because I did do some research on fencing so I can know more about it because it seemed really fancy.
I think he does practice leading into this episode. He does some practicing to make it look authentic. So he does pull it off.
Oh, very smart as an actor. I do find it funny when he was like, they ran away. So he puts it away, but then he pulls the rapier, but I'll call it a saber, out of his pocket. I mean, out of the little pouch, and he pricks his finger and is like, oops. I thought that was kind of cute.
Yes. Further showing the audience that he is drunk.
Crazy. Finally, Kirk returns to the bridge, and Spock tells him both of these dudes, Sulu and Riley, are gone. They're drunk off their bums. One of them is singing. One of them is playing with his sword. Like, what are we going to do? And so Kirk is like, well, we got to get security to grab them. And off they go to grab them so they can, see how they can fix everything. And then, but again, the ship's orbit is shifting again. And this time there's no responding controls to fix it. And the response from engineering, there's nothing. Kirk tries to leave the bridge, but he's met at the turbo lift by Sulu, who's attacking it. And I actually thought that door was a hallway, but it actually was a turbo lift. They learned something again. And he's attacking everybody, but thankfully Uhura distracts him and asks him for the sword, the saber, the rapier, is distracting him, getting it from him, and then Kirk is able to take Sulu down by using pressure points, calling him D'Artagnan from the Romeo and Juliet.
You mean Spock?
Yes, Spock. I am so sorry. Those Kirk and Spock were trying to take down Sulu, and apparently there's this Vulcan nerve thing that I just learned about. So that's what he did. Fancy. So he off to the sickbay they go, and Kirk is still trying to call Scotty in the engineering, but he's not picking up. Like, what's the deal there?
And this is the point where we get our termination timeline for the episode, because as Kirk is leaving the bridge, Spock mentions that they only have 20 minutes. Without any assistance or power from engineering, the ship will enter into the planet's atmosphere and burn up.
Which is scary because Riley has taken over the engine room and he's calling himself the captain.
Which we discover after Kirk gets to engineering and finds that, yes, Riley has locked everyone out.
And has told the cooks that everybody's getting double scoops of ice cream for dinner.
Yes. Lots of nonsense.
And of course, my favorite captain logs was 1704.4. Basically, the ship is out of control. Everything's spinning down, and they have 19 minutes left. So Kirk now runs to the control room again. Scotty and another person are trying to push the door open, but Riley doesn't allow it. It's cut off all power and everything to the helm and shut down everything that he can. So he is in control. Even the auxiliary. Thank you. Has been disconnected. But crewman has been sent to get the blueprints. Hopefully Scotty and everyone can figure out another way to get into the engine room. And thankfully they do. They're planning to cut into the wall and this weird, odd geometrical shape, which I thought was like a giant S at the beginning, but then it was a square with a triangle. Interesting.
Yeah, it looks kind of like Texas, the hole they're trying to cut out.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say this whole time. The panhandle.
And it is that particular shape because they are trying to cut into the wall without cutting or destroying certain parts of the computer or the circuits that are behind the wall bulkhead.
Spock is on his way to help them do the cutting, and as he walks by, he sees a laughing crew member because he's painted "Love Mankind" in red on the wall, and it's just laughing. And Spock tells Scotty that he's taking too long and that we have a minute and a half longer than it'll take a minute and a half longer than they already have.
Yes.
So they better go faster. In the sick bay, McCoy is still trying to find a cure, and he's using Sulu to, like a guinea pig, to find that cure. And then we can hear madness on the bridge.
We pop back to the bridge.
That's true. And then there's just a tender moment, though, between Kirk and Uhura, where Kirk actually apologizes for yelling at her, which is super sweet.
Yes.
Spock leaves Scotty, and he actually finds Nurse Christine in the sick bay. McCoy has gone to the lab with all of his samples from Sulu, and Nurse Christine flirts with Spock and infects him, which is ironic. But
well, I think Spock has already been infected from their tussle with Sulu on the bridge, because Spock's reaction to Nurse is not one of a Vulcan that's in control of his emotions. It's definitely affecting him, as she is professing her attraction and love to him.
And he is fighting. He's like, I'm supposed to be in control of my emotions. I am a Vulcan. And then she's like, but you're half human. And they have this chit chat. But then Spock just wanders off and has a meltdown where he's like, I am in control. He's like telling himself, hyping himself up that he doesn't show emotion. Stop crying. Stop all of it. Make it strong again. So, but finally the Texas cut is finished. Yay. And Kirk is able to storm into the engineering room with security and haul Riley away. And then we do go back to Spock and his meltdown, his monologue. It's very sad, but he does catch himself. Back to the engineering room, Uhura calls down far too calmly that the ship is entering the upper atmosphere. Scotty tells Kirk that Riley completely shut the engines off. They're cold. They need 30 minutes to start up. How are they going to do it when we have no time? But Kirk's like, just do it. Just get everything ready. We're going to dump the matter and antimatter into the engines and make it just a controlled implosion. Let's get this going. It's dangerous, but might blow up the ship, but we got to get out of this grip.
Well, they don't have a choice at this point. They definitely don't have 30 minutes or so to heat the engines up for a safe combination of matter and antimatter in the engines. So they don't have a choice. It's either try this or burn up in the atmosphere.
I'd rather go out trying than allowing it go. So thankfully, McCoy has found a cure, and he cures Sulu. The water on the planet actually turned a series of complex molecules that spread through sweat and made everyone drunk. So thankfully, Kirk finds Spock in the conference room where he's still having his meltdown. He's smacking him out of his silliness, and because he needs Spock to be back to his tough Spock. He needs to calculate the mixture for the engines. Kirk gets infected from the smacking, of course. And then we have another monologue from him.
From Kirk.
After their slapdown and monologue, Spock is like, I'm lucid. I got it. The calculations were good. Let's go do it.
No idea how he suddenly becomes lucid or why he's lucid or how the change came about. But yeah, he swears he knows the calculation for the mixture of matter and antimatter into the cold engines.
Well, the magical hands of Kirk. So Kirk goes back on his way to the bridge, and as he gets into the turbo lift, again, that crew member seems to have now written, Sinner repent. I don't even know what that means. Well, regarding the show. But as he gets off of the turbo lift onto the bridge, McCoy is there waiting for him, rips his shirt down.
For no reason.
That's true, because he could have just gave him his shot and cured him right through his shirt like everything else, or, up at his neck. But anyway, yay, he's cured. The engines start and they propel away from the planet, but since it's going faster than normal, it's actually making the time, like, not like mileage, but the timer is going backwards in time. So they're going back to like 3 days ago.
Right. It propels the ship so fast that time actually begins to move backwards, or they're able to observe the ship's clock start to run backwards.
And of course, that's when Spock tells them, well, duh, because of what we did, that's how we get that opportunity. So now they are able to travel back in time, and that's something that they may use in the future, according to Kirk.
I think they definitely will end up using that technology and that ability in the future. And roll credits. So, Jaci, what did you think about season 1, episode 4, The Naked Time?
There was a lot of things I had to learn about, and it was very confusing for me. I had to watch this multiple times, and I still didn't understand what I was watching. So I'm thankful that I have you to help me.
Well, and I really like this episode too. It's one of, I think, a milestone episodes. Even though it's only thrown in at the very end of the episode, the ability to time travel gets brought up a few times in the series about using this cold start engine to propel a ship faster than possible to roll back time. We revisit it. It's too bad that it's introduced at the very end kind of as a throwaway. Maybe they didn't know they were going to use it at the time, but it definitely becomes important in Star Trek. This also, of course, is the only episode that we get basically a mirror image episode in The Next Generation, where they use the exact same heavy water villain to get the crew drunk. We get eventually crew members breaking into engineering, taking away the ability for the ship to escape and imploding, I believe it's a star in The Next Generation. But it's a really good episode. It's one of the early favorites of mine. So.
But do people sing in The Next Generation?
I don't think that the quote unquote villain of the episode that's a crew member that takes over the engineering section of the Enterprise in The Next Generation does any singing, but he definitely hijacks the intercom and has his shenanigans over the intercom.
Oh.
Definitely no Irish shanties.
Oh, darn it.
But I do have some trivial tidbits or fun facts about this episode.
My favorite part.
It aired first on September 29th, 1966. This episode, with the reaction to Spock's emotional outbursts almost toward the end of the episode, caused a huge surge in the audience loving his character and empathizing with his character. It really resonated with the audience, this idea of a character that had all these repressed emotions just below the surface, versus up to this point, everyone just assumes Spock had zero emotions, I think. So this really intrigued a lot of the audience members. This episode and that moment definitely inspired many more instances throughout Star Trek where Spock's emotions play a pivotal role in the story. This episode is also the only episode where Uhura, Chapel, and Janice appear together on screen. They, of course, refer to each other. They talk to each other over the comms. But this is the only time that all three of them ever appear together on screen. The hazmat suits in the very beginning of the episode that looked so funny were actually just repurposed shower curtains.
No.
Yes, they just took shower curtains and tailored them up to be hazmat suits.
That's funny.
This, unsurprisingly, is George Takei's favorite episode. George Takei, of course, being the actor who plays Sulu. Why wouldn't it be? He got to run around shirtless and chase people. It also is of note that during shooting of this episode, he enjoyed his character and his rapier so much, chasing people around on the set, pulling pranks with it, that many of the crew went to Roddenberry and said, "You have to be done shooting these scenes and we can never let him do this again. We're not going to put up with this anymore."
Oh, that's hilarious.
This, of course, is the first appearance of the Vulcan nerve pinch that we will see time and time again throughout Star Trek.
I'm going to practice that on you.
Good luck. I mentioned it at the moment, but the part where McCoy rips off Kirk's shirt to give the injection was completely pointless. It's determined and shown in later episodes that they can receive injections through clothing. If you wanted to try to canonize it in your brain, maybe McCoy was still suffering from the intoxicating heavy water, therefore wasn't thinking clearly when he ripped off Kirk's shirt. That's about how I'm going to justify it in my brain.
Poorly made shirt.
We didn't talk about it in the episode, but as Riley is taking over the comms, he mentions or calls for a dance to take place in the ship's bowling alley. It is never shown on screen that the Enterprise has a bowling alley, but in later publications, when Star Trek became more and more popular and we started to get technical manuals for the fictional Enterprise ship, it is included in the specs for the ship. So it is canon, it's just never seen on screen.
It's like a small city.
It really is.
That's neat.
This is the first use of Scotty's famous catchphrase, "Captain, I cannot change the laws of physics," as he's referring to the time that it takes to heat up the engines. This episode has a high body count of 1. Joe is the only person that we see on screen die, not counting, of course, the dead infected scientists on the planet in the beginning. Joe is the only official death that we see during the episode. And then finally, in reference to those scientists, the female scientist that they find in the frozen station, very clearly a mannequin from the moment, as we touched on at that time. But it was a mannequin that was rented by the show, and they damaged it so badly in mocking it up for the show that they ended up having to buy it. They couldn't return it.
Yikes.
And those are your Tribble tidbits.
I like them.
And this is where we share our episode ranking, where we pretend the episode is a member of our crew of our fictitious starship, and we assign a Starfleet rank to the episode. A higher rank assigned means that the episode is not only more enjoyed or liked by us, but we find it to be a more important and vital member of our crew. And the opposite, of course, is true. A lower rank to the episode means we didn't like it, and it's more of a disposable member of the crew. We post a visual representation of our rankings for each episode for the season at our Patreon the day after we air, so on Wednesdays at patreon.com/treks and tangents for anyone to view. Our ranks for the episode are Ensign, Lieutenant Junior Grade, Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, Commander, Captain, and Admiral. And of course, each of the higher ranks have a limited number of spots. As an example, we can only have 1 Admiral, 1 Captain, but the lower ranks are unlimited. We can have an unlimited number of ensigns as an example. Jaci, what did you rank the Naked Time?
Lieutenant Junior Grade.
Lieutenant Junior Grade, which is going to be the first time Jackie's given that rank. Why did you give it that rank?
I think if I understood what I was watching, it would be higher. But because I didn't know what I was watching, that's why I have it where it is. But it wasn't terrible. Like, I loved the cinematography. I loved the drunken theatrics. Like, so much was great, but then so much was, I don't understand what I'm watching, if that makes any sense.
Fair enough. If you were to assign that on a scale of 0 to 10, that would be a 2 or a 3 out of 10. I'm going to give this a Commander rank. This, of course, is going to be one of the iconic episodes of the season. It's not going to be the best. It's not going to be a 10 out of 10. It's not going to be the absolute keystone moment for the series. But this is absolutely an iconic episode. It has to exist for so much else in the Star Trek universe to form, just on that last little throwaway at the end for that ability to time travel. So
it's like foreshadowing?
Yeah, it's going to be foreshadowing in a way that we'll see come up again and again. So Commander is going to be my rank for this episode. That's going to be an 8 or a 9 out of 10, and you can only we can only have 5 commanders. This is the first time I've assigned a rank of commander to an episode. Again, as a reminder, the visuals for our rankings will be on our Patreon page the day after this publication. To compare to the rest of the humans on IMDb as of recording, this is ranked a 7.8 out of 10.
Oh, I was way off.
We'll be back next week to trek through another episode. And to tease that episode, we're going to give our turbolift tease or elevator pitch to the next episode's plot. We're going to do that by giving Jaci just the title of next week's episode. Without any other knowledge, Jaci is going to give us a brief explanation of the plot. Jaci, next week's episode is called The Enemy Within.
Oh, well, that's simple. We're going to be fighting our inner demon because we want to have the good prevail and not the bad.
All right, and tune in next week and we'll all see if Jaci's correct.
Like always.
If you want more show information, you can find and directly support our podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/Treks and Tangents. You can also follow us on X at Treks_Tangents. We're also on Instagram and Blue Sky at Treks and Tangents. Jaci, where can people find you and what you are currently up to?
I am on Instagram at Jibboom, Jibboom. I do all kinds of things from music, makeup, clothing, dog training, and I will be trickling in some TikTok, but I forgot my username for that, so I can't tell you that yet, but I'll let you know later.
Tune in next week to find out if Jaci's recovered her TikTok account. You can watch me stream a variety of video games over at twitch.tv/PiratePoundTown. On YouTube, I post video games and other random content on my main channel at Pirate Poundtown. I also post coin collecting and hobby content at Pirate Treasure Hunting on YouTube. I post socially on Blue Sky at Pirate Poundtown, and I can also be found on Instagram under Pineapple Cannibal because I am banned from Instagram as Pirate Poundtown. Links to all social media mentioned can be found in the episode description. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode. We hope you had fun like we did, and we will see you all next week. End transmission.